जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। You don't play? Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Radha Madhava कुंज बिहारी। गोपी जना वल्लभ गिरिवर धारी। गोपी जना वल्लभ गिरिवर धारी। गोपी जना वल्लभ गिरिवर धारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजना। यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजना। यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजना। यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजना। यमुना तीर वनचारी। यमुना तीर वनचारी। राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। यशोदानन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन। 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 जमुना तीर वनचारी। जमुना तीर वनचारी। जय जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय जय गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। यशोदानन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन। 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 जमुना तीर वनचारी। जमुना तीर वनचारी। जय जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai 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 Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gaura Premanandi Hari Hari Bol. Jayam Vishnupad Pranam Svarvajagacharya Stotra Jata Shri Srimad Shila Bhaishnarin Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Shila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Nama Acharya Shila Thakur Haridas Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advait Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyam Kunda Radha Kundi Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Navadvip Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Ganga Devi Ki Jai. Yamuna Mai Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Tulsi Rani Ki Jai. Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Harinama Sankirtana Ki Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Samsthapak Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Go Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga Jai Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guroho Shri Yuta Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hare Priye. Vansha kalpatarabhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Very honored to be here again. Always nice to visit ISC. Happy to be back. And the topic that has been chosen to discuss tonight is Chatushloki, Bhagavad Gita Chatushloki. This is chapter 10 of Bhagavad Gita as it is by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. And the Chatushloki Bhagavad Gita begins with text 8 of this chapter. So we can quickly sing this together. Aham sarvasya prabhavo mattah sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvitah. Aham sarvasya prabhavo mattah sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvitah. Aham sarvasya prabhavo mattah sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvitah. Sarvasya prabhavo mattah sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvitah. Aham sarvasya prabhavo mattah sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvitah. Anyone else?
Aham sarvasya prabhavo mattah sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvitah.
Buddha bhava samanvitah. Aham sarvasya prabhavo
sarvam pravartate
mattah sarvam pravartate
iti matva bhajante
mam
buddha bhava samanvitah.
buddha bhava samanvitah. Aham, I, sarvasya, of all, prabhavaha, the source of generation, mattaha, from me, sarvam, everything, pravartate, emanates, iti, thus, matva, knowing, bhajante, become devoted, mam, unto me, buddhaha, the learned, bhava samanvitaha, with great attention. Translation: I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly know this engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. Please repeat. I am the source, of all the spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly know this engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. Purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki. A learned scholar who has studied the Vedas perfectly and has information from authorities, like Lord Chaitanya, and who knows how to apply these teachings, can understand that Krishna is the origin of everything, in both the material and spiritual worlds. And because he knows this perfectly, he becomes firmly fixed in the devotional service of the Supreme Lord. He can never be deviated by any amount of nonsensical commentaries or by fools. All Vedic literature agrees that Krishna is the source of Brahma, Shiva, and all other demigods. In the Atharva Veda, Gopal Tapani Upanishad, chapter 1, text 24, it is said, Yo Brahmanam vidadhati purvam yo vai vedanscha gapayati sma Krishna. It was Krishna who in the beginning instructed Brahma in Vedic knowledge, and who disseminated Vedic knowledge in the past. Then again, the Narayana Upanishad, text 1, says, Atha purusho havai narayano kamayata prajaha srijayeti. Then the Supreme Personality, Narayana, desired to create living entities. The Upanishad continues, Narayanat Brahma jayate, Narayanat Prajapati prajayate, Narayanat Indro jayate, Narayanat Ashto Vasavo jayante, Narayanat Ekadasha Rudra jayante, Narayanat Dvadashadityaha. From Narayana, Brahma is born, and from Narayana, patriarchs are also born. From Narayana, Indra is born. From Narayana, the 8 Vasus are born. From Narayana, the 11 Rudras are born. From Narayana, the 12 Adityas are born. This Narayana is an expansion of Krishna. It is said in the same Vedas, Brahmanyo Devaki Putraha. The son of Devaki, Krishna, is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Narayana Upanishad, text 4. That's in different Upanishads, actually. And according to some, it's in the Atma Bodha Upanishad as well. The same verse. And this is how Baladev Vidyabhushana, in his commentary, justifies the previous statement. Srila Prabhupada concludes the last paragraph by saying, this Narayana is an expansion of Krishna. So the proof for that statement is the next quote. Brahmanya Devaki Putraha. Then it is said, Eko vai Narayana asin, na Brahma na Ishano, na Apo na Agni somao neme Dyawa Prithivi, na Nakshatrani na Suryaha. In the beginning of the creation, there was only the Supreme Personality, Narayana. There was no Brahma, no Shiva, no water, no fire, no moon, no heaven and earth, no stars in the sky, no sun. That's from Maha Upanishad, chapter 1, text 2. In the Maha Upanishad, it is also said that Lord Shiva was born from the forehead of the Supreme Lord. Thus the Vedas say that it is the Supreme Lord, the creator of Brahma and Shiva, who is to be worshipped. In the Moksha Dharma also, Krishna also says, Prajapatim charudram chapyaham eva srijami ve, tauhi mam navijanito mama maya vimohita. The patriarchs, Shiva, and the others are created by me, though they do not know that they are created by me, because they are deluded by my illusory energy. In the Varaha Purana, it is also said, Narayanaha paro devas tasmad jatas chaturmukhaha tasmad rudro abhavad devaha sacha sarva gyatam gataha. Narayana is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and from him Brahma was born, from whom Shiva was born. Lord Krishna is the source of all generations, and he is called the most efficient cause of everything. He says, because everything is born of me, I am the original source of all. Everything is under me. No one is above me. Anybody know a similar verse that establishes this in Bhagavad Gita? Matta parataram nanyat kinchirasti. There's nothing other than me. He said, everything is from me. There is no supreme controller other than Krishna. One who understands Krishna in such a way from a bona fide spiritual master, with references from Vedic literature, engages all his energy in Krishna consciousness and becomes a truly learned man. In comparison to him, all others who do not know Krishna properly are but fools. Only a fool would consider Krishna to be an ordinary man. A Krishna-conscious person should not be bewildered by fools. He should avoid all unauthorized commentaries and interpretations on Bhagavad Gita, and proceed in Krishna consciousness with determination and firmness. One of the many things that Srila Prabhupada establishes in his purport to this verse is the importance of hearing properly from authoritative sources. His first sentence is very pregnant with meaning. He says, a learned scholar who has studied the Vedas perfectly and has information from authorities like Lord Chaitanya, and who knows how to apply these teachings, can understand that Krishna is the origin of everything in both the material and spiritual world, and because he knows this perfectly, he becomes firmly fixed in the devotional service of the Supreme Lord. So really, in some sense, Krishna is just continuing what he's already stated in the last verse, which I'll read for reference. Etam vibhutim yogam cha mama yo veti tattvataha sovikalpena yogena yujyate natra sangshayaha. Which means, one who is factually convinced of this opulence and mystic power of mine engages in unalloyed devotional service. Of this there is no doubt. Unalloyed. What does alloy mean? To be alloyed. Mixed with, just like in America when you buy, they call it gold, but it's actually not even 50% gold. Because it's alloyed. It's mixed with who knows what else. So, unalloyed devotional service means you're not mixing that devotional service with other things. In the beginning, everyone mixes devotional service with other things. Everyone. Where does Krishna say this? Which chapter? Yeah, exactly. Which is chapter? Yes, that's right. Chapter 7 is a very, very important chapter. Actually, in chapter 7, if you study Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentaries on chapter 7, you'll see that in that chapter he establishes categories that he makes reference to for the entire rest of his Bhagavad Gita commentary. Categories of devotees in particular, different kinds of devotees. So, all right, so devotee means unalloyed devotee. Now here, we're also talking about unalloyed Krishna consciousness in text number 7 of chapter 10. Somebody who knows this, tattvata. How many places in Bhagavad Gita does Krishna say this? Tattvataha. How many verses have we heard that this word is there? Tattvataha. What does it mean? According to the truth, in truth, factually, you can translate it in all these ways. Anybody know some verses? Tattvataha. Where does he say this? Janma karma che me divyam evam yoveti tattvataha. Or? Manusyanam sahasreshu kashidyati siddhaya tatam avisiddhanam veti tattvataha. Okay. So in many places Krishna is talking, this is the qualification is always given. You have to understand Krishna, but you cannot understand Krishna from a businessman who passes as a yogi, or from one of your relatives, or from not just anybody or everybody. You have to understand Krishna in parampara. What chapter is this in? Evam parampara praptam. This thing is understood in parampara, Krishna says. So paramparagat bhakta, you have to go and see. And to understand what he's teaching in fact, you have to hear very carefully. And as Srila Prabhupada here is concluding his purport, one should avoid all unauthorized commentaries and interpretations of Bhagavad Gita and proceed in Krishna consciousness with determination and firmness. So in other words, you can't just hear from anybody and everyone. You have to hear from the right person. And there's a certain way to hear, and then there's a certain way to apply what you hear also. This is why we have spiritual masters. Tad vidhi pariprashnena ityadi. So the idea is that a bona fide spiritual master is not only representing the kind of tradition that is implied here. That's what authorities means. For example, if we want to study Srimad Bhagavatam, who is the original commentator on Srimad Bhagavatam that everyone respects? Sridhar Swami. Sridhar Swami. This is my personal experience. I've seen most of the major commentaries on Srimad Bhagavatam. Sridhar Swami says one thing, and then Vamshidhara Acharya says the same thing, more or less. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says exactly the same thing. Sanatan Goswami said the same thing. Jiva Goswami said the same thing. Everybody's saying the same thing. Same. And then suddenly, some businessman comes up, or some yogi, or some speculator or scholar, and he says something totally different. This is what it means. You don't hear from that person. You hear from the proper authorities. Ramanujacharya is saying one thing on this verse. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is saying slightly different thing, but consonant with what Ramanujacharya has said. Madhvacharya. Sridhar Swami also wrote his Bhagavad Gita commentary. Baladev Vidyabhushan, Srila Prabhupada's purport, practically is only paraphrasing whatever Baladev Vidyabhushan has written. Nothing really new here. This is what it means, to hear in parampara. You don't add anything to the message, you don't subtract anything from the message. And then you have to be trained personally by a spiritual master how to apply the message. It's not enough to get an unbruised mango, you have to figure out how to ingest that mango also. You don't put it in your ear, you don't put it in the other end. You put it in your mouth, and then your body will be nourished. Kshutrapayo nukhasam. So, Bhagavad Gita is like that. We have to hear it from the proper source, we have to apply it in the proper way. This is why we have spiritual masters. So Prabhupada has said here, somebody who has heard perfectly well from proper authorities and knows how to apply it, then he can understand. You may not understand, but you can understand. So what does that mean? You have to work then. You have to demonstrate to Krishna that you really want to understand. Demonstrate. Demonstrate means something. What does demonstration mean? Lecdem. Lecture demonstration. What does it mean? It means somebody's going to show you something practically, what you're supposed to do. So you have to do this also. Then Krishna takes interest. Look, his spiritual master gave him this instruction, and he's doing exactly what his guru taught, therefore I'm going to give him mercy. Yasya prasadad bhagavat prasado ityadi. So, this is the proper way to understand. And what is it that we're to conclude when we understand? Aham saravasya prabhavo matta saravam pravartate. Etam vibhutim yogam cha. This is the previous text. Krishna says, somebody who knows this opulence and mystic power of mine. Therefore, Ramanujacharya, when he introduces today's verse, he says, Vibhuti jnana vipaka rupam bhakti vriddham darshayati. This verse is meant to show us one thing. What is that thing? Vibhuti jnana vipaka rupam. The ripened form of this knowledge of the vibhutis that are being discussed. What is chapter 10 titled? Vibhuti Yoga, because it's full of a description of all Krishna's vibhutis. So he says the right form, the mature form of real knowledge of all these vibhutis is what? Bhakti vriddhim. Not just bhakti, bhakti vriddhim, increasing bhakti. The bhakti is increasing. So darshayati, in order to show this, he speaks these next 4 verses. So the first thing he says, aham sarvasya, I'm everything. What does sarva mean? Yeah, probably, well, easy word. The easy words in Sanskrit are actually the hard words in Sanskrit. So sarvasya, of all. Ramanujacharya, he glosses this term as vichitra chid achit prapanchakasya. Everything within this phenomenal world that is either chit or achit, conscious or unconscious. And vichitra, it's vibhinna, it's varied, bewildering even. All this wonderful manifestation. What else does it mean? Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, sarvasya means prakrita aprakrita vastu matrasya. All the things that are either mundane or spiritual. This is hence Srila Prabhupada's translation here. And elsewhere he also says, sarvam. Well, that's a different thing. But prabhava. What does prabhava mean? Just like we say prabhu. What does prabhu mean? And why is he the master? Because everything emanates from him. Eko bahunam yo vidadhati kaman. Why do you have, who is your boss? The one who is maintaining you. He's distributing all the paychecks. You see? So prabhu means the one who has prabhava. All things are emanating from him. Okay? So what does it mean, prabhava? Ramanujacharya says here, utpati karanam. That's the source of generation. And very similarly, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur also says, utpati pradurbhava. Same thing. The hetu. Okay. Aham sarvasya prabhavo. Then, matta. Matta. What does matta mean? Different matta. I'm tricking you. This means mattaha. From me. Matta is a noun. This is not a noun. This is a pronoun, you can say. Declined pronoun. So, matta, from me. Matta sarvam pravartate. Which is to say that, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur puts it very nicely. He says, sarvantaryami surupat sarva jagat pravartate cheshtate tatha matta eva avataratmakat sarvam bhakti jnata tapak karnamadikam sadhanam tat sadhyam cha pravittim bhavati. Everything emanates from me. Pravittim. Pravartate means pravittim bhavati. And what does that mean? What does that everything? Here it's a new definition of everything we've already described. Antaryami surupat sarva jagat pravartate. All the worlds, all the universes are coming out of whom? Which form of Krishna? Huh? Listen closely what I'm saying. Antaryami sarupat sarva jagat pravartate. Everything comes from one antaryami. And antaryami means supersoul. Why does everything come from supersoul? Why supersoul? Why Kshirodakashayi Vishnu? Think about this. Where do these material worlds come from? Out of whose pores? Mahavishnu is Karanodakashayi Vishnu. But within every atom of the universe is another Vishnu form, Kshirodakashayi Vishnu. He's actually expanding everything. Okay. That's one way to look at it. Another way to look at it is this. Bhakti gyata tapak karnamadikam sadhanam. Whatever practices we've been given by the Lord or by his representatives such as Narada Muni, Naradadhyavatarak atmakat, his self-same avatars such as Narada Muni. Is Narad Muni an avatar? What kind of avatar? Avesha avatar. There are 6 kinds of avatars described in the Shastra. Particularly, Rupa Goswami has enumerated and explained those in Laghu Bhagavatamritam and also Chaitanya Charitamritam. So, of the 6 forms of avatars, one such form is Avesha avatar. And the Avesha avatar means some living entity has been empowered with the potency of the Supreme Lord in a limited sense. Just like Parashuram, he was empowered to do what? To kill. Yes. Vyasadeva was empowered to do what? To write literatures. Narad Muni is empowered to? Oh, this is important. We're all seeking the same empowerment as Narad Muni. Okay, so all the sadhanas that are taught by these avatars, which include those who know about the process of bhakti yoga, those who are teaching such things as austerity and piety, etc. Not only that sadhanas, but also the sadhyas. What are the sadhyas involved in those things? Ultimately, it comes to one thing only. What is it? What is the ultimate sadhya? Sadhya meaning the goal. Yeah. Krishna prema, pure devotional service, yes. All these things, Krishna says, they come out from Antaryami. Because by the grace of Antaryami, you can realize. Shrinvatam sukata Krishna punya shravana kirtara hridi antasto hiya bhadrani vidhunati. The person who is within the heart, that is Antaryami. Kshirodakashai Vishnu. Okay, so that's one way to look at it. What does Ramanujacharya say about it? Sarvam matta eva pravartate. This is the idea. Idam mama swabhavikam nirankushaishwaryam. This is my innate, we can say swabhavik, natural or intrinsic. Nirankushaishwaryam. What does that mean? Unrestricted opulence, unrestricted lordliness, unobstructed lordliness, we can say. This is the Lord's qualification. And what else? Saushilya, good character, saundarya, inestimable beauty, and vatsalyadi kalyana gunagana yogam cha. All such wonderful auspicious qualities, such as the fact that he loves his devotees. This thing is all emanating from him. This is all part of Sarvam. Now, iti madva, having understood this, buddha. Who is a buddha? A jnanina, Ramanujacharya says. Having understood this, bhava samanvitaha mam sarva kalyananvitam bhajante. He worships Krishna, who is full of all wonderful qualifications. Now, Ramanujacharya doesn't really elaborate so much on bhava samanvita, but he says, bhavo manovritti vishesha. Manovritti vishesha, your particular state of mind or particular mode of consciousness. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says the same thing as Ramanujacharya, but he fine-tunes it a great deal. What does he say? He says, Matta, we've already described this. Aikantika bhakti lakshanam yogam aha iti matva. He's talking about unalloyed, pure devotional service. And one has to understand that. How does one understand that? Astikyato jnanena nishchitya. Having ascertained it through knowledge that is of the nature of astikya gyan. What does astikya mean? Religious, pious, faithful, yes. And we have to, it's a very valuable word we've got from Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur for this age, because generally in this age, what does knowledge mean? It means you're going to diss God. You're going to get rid of him somehow or other. He's not relevant anymore. God is dead. Doesn't matter. This is just old-fashioned bhajan nonsense. You see? Therefore, we have this very helpful word, astikyato jnanena. With the help of this kind of knowledge, that is to say, by reading Srila Prabhupada's books, this is really what it comes down to, then we hone our intelligence and our awareness. Jnana means knowledge, but actually jnana means awareness. And what kind of awareness? Awareness that is consonant with religious cultivation, spiritual realization, the two being non-different. Okay, so then Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, bhava. Ramanujacharya told us that bhava is manovritti vishesha, a particular mode of mind. And what does Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur say? He refines this a little further. He says, bhavo dasya sakyadis tadyuktaha. It is that particular mode of consciousness that is characterized by such things as dasya, sakya, etc. So how many others can we guess? What else is there besides dasya and sakya? Vatsalya and madhurya. Madhurya is especially important in this regard. We'll come to it in a moment. Okay, so I'm not going to summarize what Baladev Vidyabhushan has said on this verse, because Srila Prabhupada's purport, as we've already mentioned, he more or less is already paraphrasing Baladev, practically speaking verbatim. But we should take note of the fact here that one who understands Krishna in such a way, from a bona fide spiritual master, with references from Vedic literature, engages all his energy in Krishna consciousness and becomes a truly learned man. Truly learned means bahunam janmanam ante jnanavan mam prapadyate. You know something if you're doing it. If you're not doing it, you don't know it. From chapter 15 also, what has Krishna told us about this? Anybody know the verse? Yatanto yoganaschainam pasyantyatmanyavastitam yatanto prakatatmano nainam pasyantyachetasaha. Those who are applying these principles, they understand everything very clearly. You don't even have to tell them. They know. Those who are not applying these principles, even they try hard to understand, they still get confused because they're not applying the principles. This is an experiential process. Experience. What does experience mean? Swanubhava, personal experience. Yas swanubhavam akhila shruti saramekam adhyatma deepam atitirashatam tamontham. In the beginning of the Srimad Bhagavatam, this prayer is offered in glorification of Shukdev Goswami. What does this Bhagavatam consist of? Yaswanubhavam akhila shruti saramekam. It is the one thing that embodies the entire teaching of all the Vedas. Akhila shruti saram, the essence of all the shrutis. And what does it consist of? Personal experience only. Swanubhavam. Whose personal experience? That of Shukdev Goswami, which is the same thing as that of Vyasdev, which is the same thing as that of Narad Muni and all the acharyas, and it can be your experience also. But without applying these teachings, under the guidance of a proper bona fide spiritual master who speaks in terms of Vedic literatures only, then we cannot understand. Even we can try. I used to work with such people. In many cases, they know our books better than we do. But they don't budge in the heart, not 1 inch. And so they can't understand. Things that are very obvious to a devotee, they just can't understand it. It strikes them and they're, oh. So, all right. I'm going to stop here. But if anybody has any questions on any of this or any comments so far, yes, please.
Thank you, Prabhu. So when it says that the sadhya comes from the antaryami Vishnu, what does that mean? Sadhya comes from him.
Sadhya, I would take in this sense as the goal of your sadhana. Sadhana means you're working towards a particular sadhya. That's what the word sadhya means. It's the subject matter of whatever endeavor you're making, whatever practice or discipline you're following. So everybody has a different sadhya. Of course, ultimately everybody has the same sadhya in terms of Krishna. But somebody wants Krishna in this way, somebody wants Krishna in that way, somebody wants Krishna to this extent, somebody wants Krishna to that extent. This is called sadhya. So all these options, if you will, they're given by Krishna. They extend from him. He has expanded himself in the form of all living entities. And each of these living entities, each has its own volition, its own sentiments, its own desires. He's reciprocating in that sense. And it is Paramatma who guides us along at every step, as we've described. So that's how I see it. Is that okay?
Thank you.
Anything else?
Haribol Prabhu. Here.
Okay.
So just now you mentioned about those people who have studied Prabhupada books more than us. So when Prabhupada says, somebody reading my book, these books will achieve perfection. So why do you still say that they don't understand
That's
the
what
obvious
I said,
things? Because
they don't apply them. This is the point of Prabhupada's purport, which I'll read again, just because it's worth repeating. A learned scholar who has studied the Vedas perfectly and has information from authorities like Lord Chaitanya and who knows how to apply these teachings can understand that Krishna is the origin of everything in both the material and spiritual worlds, and because he knows this perfectly, he becomes firmly fixed in the devotional service of the Supreme Lord. If he doesn't become firmly fixed in the devotional service, then that means he doesn't understand it very well. And if he doesn't understand it very well, he can't apply it very well. And if he doesn't apply it, then he doesn't understand. He doesn't realize. It's like when I was in Pune, they asked me to speak a few words about Bhagavad Gita, so I explained that I had read many Bhagavad Gitas before I came to ISKCON and before I read Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita, but I frankly didn't understand them. And the reason I didn't understand them is because the publishers also didn't understand them. Because they were not received in bona fide disciplic succession. So this is Bhagavad Gita Yatharup, as they say in Hindi, Yatharup. And so I said that we should read Bhagavad Gita Yatharup. Bhagavad Gita Anyatharup nahi. So this is the idea. Is that okay? It's an extension from surrendering under Krishna's representative. You can surrender to Krishna directly if he's right in front of you, but if you don't see him in front of you, and if you don't see him inside of you, then you have to surrender to his external manifestation. And who is the external manifestation of the Supersoul? The spiritual master. He's Swayam Prakash form of the Lord. Simultaneously different and non-different. He's not God, he's only a jiva. But he has God's authority because he's transparent. We say transparent via media, not opaque via media. Transparent means there's nothing occluding your vision or obstructing your vision. He's transparent. Whatever Krishna says, that's what he says. Whatever Krishna wants, that's what he pushes. Okay? So if we're trained by such a person, then we become such a person. And when we become such a person, then we realize everything very clearly, and we can help others as well. This is the implication of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's open order to all Indians. Bharata bhumite hoila manusya janmajar janma sartha kari. Janma sartha kari. Karo paropakar. First you have to actually assimilate. Make this your own experience, and then you can only speak on the basis of your experience. You can't speak theoretically forever. It doesn't mean anything to you or the person you're talking to. It has to be solid, burnt into your, burnt into your chip. It has to be really assimilated. Then, just like in music, if you learn classical music, you can memorize some few tekas on tabla, for example, but you have to actually practice every day. Otherwise, you freeze up. You get on the stage and you can't do anything. It's the same thing. Certain things are like that. Mathematics is like that. The principle is very simple, but to actually to be able to do it, you have to practice. Music is like that. Krishna consciousness is like that. Okay? Anything else? Yes.
So Prabhu, how you just mentioned that only we can speak only according to our experience, but we also see that in the modern world there are so many so-called speakers who speak so eloquently and huge following, but then people get attracted towards all this cheap. But the problem is they talk about philosophy also, so people get very attracted towards that. But what is your take on that? Because what is their experience? Why are souls getting attracted?
This is described in the Srimad Bhagavatam, 7th canto, chapter 15, texts 12 through 14, I believe. It talks about different modes of pseudo-dharma in this world. Pseudo-dharma. So there is paradharma, to try to do someone else's duty, and then there's dharmabhas, which is a semblance of your duty, and then one of those is called chala dharma. Chala dharma means out and out cheating. You know it's not dharma, but you're saying some hocus pocus, and you're very eloquent about it, and you can impress people, and they get enamored by that. It's just cheating. Word jugglery, Srila Prabhupada says sometimes. So the chala means cheating only. Kaitava dharma. So people want to hear those kinds of things. People want to be religious, but at the same time they want to be religious in such a way that it's consistent with a life of sense gratification. And that is an illusion. It doesn't exist. So because they're looking for that, therefore there are so many people out there who are available to offer it to them, because those people are also cheating. They're fulfilling their own purposes. Everybody is fulfilling a svarthi. Nate vidu svartha gatim hi Vishnum. And because everybody is svarthi, therefore Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, in this world there's only two kinds of people. What kind are they? One is called vanchaka, and the other one is called vanchita. One is the person who's cheating, and the other person who's being cheated. And actually, most of us are a little bit of each at all times. We're all a little bit of each. We're cheating to some degree, and we're being cheated to that degree. But when we stop cheating, and when we become serious about Krishna consciousness, then we will see that we're no longer cheated. A person can only cheat someone who's cheating to begin with. This is the fact. Just like if you're satisfied, you don't require a credit card, then they can't exploit you. If you're happy without a cell phone, smartphone I mean, then they can't exploit you. Then you're happy. Therefore, in this world, the very last thing that anyone wants is for everyone to be satisfied, santushti. That cannot stand in rampant capitalism. It's antithetical. You have to create some dissatisfaction that you can then exploit. You all know this. So, this is the idea. Vanchaka and vanchita. If we're vanchakas, then we will necessarily be vanchita as well. Okay, so then if there are no more questions, okay, one in the back. Paradharma is the easier one. When you try to do someone else's duty, then that's called paradharma. And it's something that Krishna actually warned us against twice in Bhagavad Gita. Where in Bhagavad Gita? In chapter 18 is the second warning. Where is the first warning? Third chapter, or third or fourth chapter, I don't remember which one. But the idea is that Everybody has a particular swabhava in this world. That swabhava is the sum total of impressions created by your karmic entanglement over many, many lifetimes. And exactly corresponding to that swadharma or psychology, there will be a set of social, spiritual, religious obligations called swadharma. And it's different for everybody because it corresponds to the swabhava. We all have different swabhavas, therefore we all have different swadharmas. But everybody has to do only the dharma that matches their own swabhava. If you attempt something else, then it creates actually a sinful reaction because it's injurious to yourself and to those around you. Just like in modern society, that's well known among doctors and social workers, if there's one alcoholic in the family, the whole family is affected by it. Not only the family, but even other people as well. Anybody who associates with that person also gets infected or affected in some way, you see. So dharma is a little bit like that. And Krishna says in 11th canto, when explaining these matters to Uddhava, he says, Swaya swaya dhikare ya nishtha sa guna parakirtitaha. To be situated only in that thing that you're actually qualified to do, in which you have adhikar. Adhikar is another one of these many, 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 many words that we don't really have English equivalents. Adhikar. The closest word that I found for this concept is prerogative. Why prerogative? Because prerogative means not only what you're allowed to do, but actually what you're capable of doing. You see, this is adhikar. The principle of adhikar is that you can actually do it. If you cannot actually do it, then you should not attempt that. So neither should you attempt something that you're underqualified for, neither should you be satisfied. You know, if you're actually overqualified to do something, you should not do less than that thing also. That will also cause problems because you won't be fully engaged. And if you're not fully engaged, then what happens? The mind is idle. And an idle mind is a devil's workshop. So it has to be right on the money, so to speak. You have to do exactly what you're qualified to do, nothing more than that, nothing less than that. This is called swadharma. And if you do anything other than your own dharma, or if you're trying anyone else's dharma, paradharma, you're going to be guilty of one of these two things. And it causes problems both individually and as well as socially. And actually the whole system of dharma is very scientific in the sense of metaphysical, in that there are cosmic ramifications to everything that we do. And we don't even see this part. We don't even consider this part. But that's also there. Krishna hints at this much in chapter 3, but that's another topic, so I won't get into that. But anyway, this is the idea. So does that explain something of paradharma? Upadharma, yeah. Just now I can't remember the exact definition, so I wouldn't want to say something. Oh, there you have. Yeah. Okay, so it said analogical religion. Yeah, I'd really want to look at the commentaries before I say more than that because it's not clear from the English. Commentary means Sanskrit. Like I said, so many words in English, they don't mean the same thing, so it's better to... Okay, anything else? Somebody else had a question or comments? This is the Bal Yatra here.
Thank you, Prabhuji, for wonderful explaining, and I really like the point that you told that how Prabhupada was, Prabhupada and also one should follow in the footsteps of previous acharya. I was reading the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita and I was just amazed to see how Prabhupada telling each village, each road, what Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur has commented on his Anubhas. He's telling each and everything as it is, he repeated. So I was just wondering when I was reading, wow, this is what following in the exactly. He could have removed that all details, but he followed in his footstep. And
yet it's not parrot chanting. This is the wonderful thing about it. In some cases, we find that Prabhupada says something entirely new. One example is chapter 4, text number 10 of Bhagavad Gita. That purport could not have been written before the 20th century. The very nature of the purport is such that it could not, the very nature of the 20th century is such that it would not have been required to write such a purport before the 19th or 20th century. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada had to write that purport, and the things that he wrote in that purport are completely new. They're not inconsonant with what Krishna has said. They're right in line with the verse and also with the predecessor's comments. But sometimes it's necessary to say something additionally. And that is why it's not just a matter of blindly repeating like parrots. One has to actually have the depth of realization and compassion and empathy and all the other qualities that can only be the fruit of long practice of Krishna consciousness. So sometimes Prabhupada will add something new when it's necessary. But in generally, not only Srila Prabhupada, all the commentators, they're all very, very careful to follow, pretty much. Very often I've seen two different acharyas separated maybe even by centuries, but their commentaries will say virtually the same thing, almost verbatim. Same words, same order, everything, as if it's a verbatim quote. It's very, very scrupulously conservative in that way, but not blindly so.
the question is why this is considered as like most important by our acharyas, these four verses of Bhagavad Gita, and it's consistent across all the acharyas, or which acharya have accepted this as a four most important verses of Bhagavad Gita?
That I think we're going to discuss that tomorrow. So I don't want to spoil the plot. It's in the very middle of the Bhagavad Gita, that's one thing. It's like, the internal core of the Bhagavad Gita, you might say. Sometimes we say chapter 9, but it's almost chapter 9. Okay, are we supposed to have a break now? No? That's what they told me. Oh, so the first class is 1 hour or is 2 hours? Ayo. I was under the impression that I have to speak for an hour, and then now I have to speak for 4 hours. Well, okay.
More than chanting. The meaning of how to improve chanting.
All right, first of all, does anybody have any more questions or any comments? Yes.
So I wanted to know about Sridhar Swami.
Sridhar Swami.
I just
Okay.
know he's the first commentator, but I don't know anything more about him.
Yeah, not very many people do know much about Sridhar Swami, except that his name is highly respected by virtually everyone. They don't even know when he lived, and they don't even know where he lived. General consensus is that Sridhar Swami was about a century or two before Lord Chaitanya, and that he lived in Kashi, Banaras, and that he was initiated in the Shankar Sampradaya, which was actually the norm in those days, as you know. Even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and several of his associates were also initiated into the Shankara Sampradaya because the Vishnu Swami line had dried out, and Ramanuja Madhvacharya lines were mostly in the south, and there was no real Vaishnava lines at that time. So there were a number of these sannyasis, just like we find Paramananda Puri, Brahmananda Bharati, Vishnu Puri amongst Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's associates and seniors. They were all nominally initiated into the Shankar Sampradaya, Mayavad Sampradaya, and resident in Banaras or other places nearby. So although they were technically considered to be impersonalists, but actually they were very, very favorable to Krishna Bhakti. Madhusudan Saraswati is another one, famous commentator on Bhagavad Gita, and he belonged in that social-religious milieu as well. So Sridhar Swami was a great devotee. Some say that he was actually initiated into the Vishnu Swami Sampradaya. That's hard to prove or disprove, because even in the 16th century, the Vishnu Swami Sampradaya was sufficiently amorphous that Vallabhacharya could claim to be representing it, and there was no basis of any argument. Anyway, so Sridhar Swami, he wrote his Bhavartha Deepika. His commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam is called Bhavartha Deepika, a lamp to show us the real light of the mood of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And he was controversial in 14th century or 15th century Kashi because he was too devotional. In much the same way that the theory of Buddhism doesn't really support many of the practices of Mahayana or Tibetan Buddhism, because it's a godless system, and yet they have deities and they're worshiping, and it's very, very devotional. So in something in that way, the Mayavadis of Kashi at that time, they were thinking that this commentary is a little bit, it's too much bhakti. Really is what it comes down to. They were not comfortable with it. So they challenged, and there was some jhagada about that. So eventually it was decided that there would be a test, and they took the commentary of Sridhar Swami and they put it in front of Kashi Vishwanath. Anyone ever been to see Kashi Vishwanath? And raise your hand. Very beautiful old temple. So they put this commentary in front of Kashi Vishwanath, Lord Shiva, and they shut the temple. They thought, we'll see what happens. So when the temple doors were shut, they heard Akashvani came and said, Aham Vedmi, I know. Shuko Veti, Shukdev Goswami, he knows. Vyaso Veti na Veti va. Vyas may know or he may not know. Parantu, Sridharo Sakalam Veti. Sri Narsingha Prasadataha. Sridhar Swami knows everything by the grace of Narsingha. So even who he was worshipping also we don't know. Some say he was worshipper of Lord Narsingha Dev. Others say his spiritual master was named Narsingha. So we don't know exactly. But in either way, by Guru and Krishna's grace, Sridhar Swami's commentary was accepted by Lord Shiva. And therefore, from that point on, the Mayavadis had to back off. So, because Sridhar Swami's commentary was the oldest commentary that we know of, there are actually commentaries that predate his commentary, because after all, Sridhar Swami was not that long ago. 14th century is not so long ago. Certainly there were commentaries before that. But his commentary is, at least in North India, was the most widely respected, and still is. So much so that when Vallabhacharya claimed to have defeated Sridhar Swami with his own commentary, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu chastised him for it, didn't like to hear that, because the system is, we have to hear submissively from the acharyas. Acharya, what is that verse? Well, acharyavan purusho veda, a person who accepts the acharya can know everything. And also, what is the other one? Acharya mam vijanyan navamanyanja karhichet. Never think less of him. Never consider him. Namartya buddhyasu yeta. Don't be envious. Don't think he's an ordinary human being. You see? Why? What's the last line? Sarvadeva Mayo Guruhu. He's the spiritual master, is the embodiment of all the gods. So this has been the spirit with which all the acharyas have accepted Sridhar Swami ever since that. And practically speaking, no one really differs from Sridhar Swami. But as far as biodata, we don't really have that much information. Some people say he was from Orissa also. Different versions are there. Some people say he's from the extreme south. Hard to say. Yeah. You're raising your hand, or there's one way in the back, actually, sorry.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you for the amazing class. So, Prabhu, I have a question regarding Vallabhacharya, the founder of Pushti Margya Sampradaya. So, we hear that it's a part of Rudra Sampradaya, but I've also heard he took initiation from Gadadhar Pandit. So, could you resolve this confusion?
In the 16th century, Vallabhacharya, who was actually from Andhra Pradesh originally, but settled in near Prayag and eventually moved to Vrindavan. He was a great scholar, and he was an associate of Lord Chaitanya and his disciples. Srila Kavi Karnapur says that he was actually an incarnation of, if I'm not mistaken, Shukadev Goswami, because, and even in his own sampradaya, he's considered to be the Mukhavatar, the avatar of the Lord's mouth. In other words, the mouthpiece of the Lord, you can say. And in his line, they're very famous Bhagavat Kathakars as well. Very fond of the Srimad Bhagavatam in that line. Anyway, he was not exactly surrendered to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he was moving around India debating with other scholars and establishing his reputation and his sampradaya. So in the course of his travels, he came to Vijayanagar in Karnataka, near Hampi. And he was defeating the Mayavadis in the court of Vijayanagar at the invitation of the king. And because he was successful in routing the Mayavadis, who were not very widely appreciated in those quarters, the king offered him, you can take the position of any of the sampradayas, 4 sampradaya seats that you wish. So he accepted the seat of the Vishnu Swami Sampradaya. He said, he was teaching the Shuddhadvaita. Whether Vishnu Swami actually taught Shuddhadvaita or not is in question. There are statements from our acharyas that indicate that the character of the teachings of Vishnu Swami, if Sridhar Swami is their representative, would better support a position of Achinta Bhedabhed. But anyway, his philosophy is Shuddhadvaita, pure non-dualism. What does pure non-dualism mean? Purified non-dualism, Srila Prabhupada sometimes says. Purified monism. It's monist, but it's Vaishnava monism. Don't ask me to explain that because it's it's complicated. But so he was, from that point on, he's considered to be the representative of the Vishnu Swami Sampradaya, as much as we can know that there is one. And as I said, his teaching is Shuddhadvaita, purified non-dualism. He says that everything is Krishna, but for the sake of bhakti, Krishna obscures some of his identity and all other things. That's basically what it comes down to. So,
is it servitude what he preaches?
yes. Yeah, no, he's Vaishnava, and it's pure Vaishnavism also. It's philosophically different. This has more to do with the limitations of philosophy than it does with any real flaw in their ideology. I mean, philosophy of any sort has limitations. That's why we have distinctions between any of the different acharyas. There are extremists in Vedanta school. Madhvacharya is one such extremist. Vallabhacharya is at the other end, another extremist. Vallabhacharya is extreme dualism, or rather pluralism, because he says there are 5 kinds of differences, not just 2. And then Vallabhacharya is an extremist on the other end, where he says there's no difference at all. Logically, it's hard to reconcile all these, but that has more to do with the limitations of logic than it does with any kind of ontology. Most of the acharyas are somewhere in between. Ramanuja means Vishishta Advaita. Yes, Advaita, but Vishishta. It's specified Advaita. That's also not really easy to explain. Nimbarkacharya comes even closer when he says explicitly Bheda Bheda. But again, he doesn't explain how it's possible. And finally, Jiva Goswami says, Achintya Bheda Bhed. Yes, they're all right. A Bheda Bhed to hai. They can. How do you explain that? You don't explain that. He came out and at least he was explicit about it. It cannot be explained. This is the point. It's achintya. So achintya khalu ye bhavana tan starken yojayat. You should not try to apply reason where reason doesn't belong. This is the point. Reason falls short of these questions, so you can't really, you have to just hear from authorities. Shabda. All right, so anyway, Vallabhacharya, he's from that time, he's considered to represent the Shuddhadvait ideology, which is certainly in his commentaries. And as far as his Diksha line goes, they say that he's representing the Vishnu Swami line. Is that okay?
So, Prabhu, is it true that he took initiation from Gadadhar?
Oh, right, yeah. That's described in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Srila Prabhupada has written this. There are different accounts of his sampradaya and his dealings with our sampradaya. In different places, they're not entirely consistent. I don't know if his representatives would agree with that nowadays, but that is what's written by our acharyas, and so that's what we accept. This is the way it has to be. If you're going to accept the process of Shabda, then you have to accept what the Acharya says. And there are differences among the Acharyas. There's not a problem with that. But you have to accept your own Acharya. This is the point. This is why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu became angry with Vallabhacharya. Because if Vallabhacharya is representing the Vishnu Swami line, and Sridhar Swami is also representing the Vishnu Swami line, and Vallabhacharya says he defeated Sridhar Swami, then that means Vallabhacharya is arguing with his own Acharya. This is not right, you see. We can have arguments with other Acharyas, but your own Acharya you have to accept. Acharyam mam vijaniyan, navamam nyete karhichit ityadi. So Gadadhar Pandit is said to have initiated him. He had some association with Vallabhacharya. Vallabhacharya was inspired by the Madhurya Rasa that he saw in the Gaudiya Vaishnavas generally, and Gadadhar Pandit in particular. And so it's said that he was given initiation after he was humiliated by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Jagannath Puri for these comments, these very same comments. Because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wouldn't take him seriously, no one else in Puri would take him seriously also. And so he felt greatly ashamed, and he must have been going through some tests at that time. But eventually he humbled himself before Gadadhar Pandit, and it said that he took initiation. It's interesting to note also that from that point on, the association between the two sampradayas became fairly close, and the Madhurya Rasa was more prominent in the Vallabha line than it was previously. And it's still like that. They have Madhurya Rasa there. His son in particular, Vittalesh Goswami, he really emphasized more the Madhurya Rasa. And he was also himself very closely associated with the Goswamis, Rup Goswami and others Goswamis of Vrindavan. They were regularly associating. He was based in Mathura and also at Govardhan, and the Gaudiya Vaishnavas were in Vrindavan, also Radha Kund. It's interesting because one of the things that's stated is that the deity of Srinathji was actually given to that to Vitalanath Goswami by Raghunath Das Goswami. Because after his father Vallabhacharya left the planet, he was so much feeling separation. And Das Goswami knew very well that his father was very attached to this deity, Gopal deity of Madhavendra Puri. So he gave the deity to Vitalesh Goswami. That's what Bhakti Ratnakar, I think it's Bhakti Ratnakar says that. And it's supported in other places. Prakatinadija Shaktya Vallabhacharya Bhaktya. This is written by whom? Maybe Raghunath Das Goswami himself. No, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. I think it's in his stotra, Gopala Devashtaka. He wrote 8 prayers for this deity of Srinathji. And however, the Vallabhacharya Sampradaya accounts for it very differently. They say that the deity was stolen. Stolen by the pujaris of... because we know Madhavendra... Anyway, that's a whole, it's too much complicated history. The Madhavendra Puri is involved in both Sampradaya's accounts, but both Sampradaya's accounts are not... they don't really match. So, is that okay? All right. Anything else? Yeah. Online question? I'm thirsty.
So this is from Bali Mardan Prabhu, and he's submitting further evidence about the origin of Sridhar Swami Maharaj. So he's saying that he's from Odisha, okay. And so Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says that.
I know what he's going to say.
He studied in Kashi, and then he was a grahastha, and then later on he left home. And
yeah, this is the point. It's just like Jayadev Goswami. The Bengalis will say he's from Bengal, the Oriyas will say he's from Odisha. Bilvamangala Thakur, same thing. Andhra Pradesh people say he's from there, the Karnataka. Marathis say he's from there, and Kerala is another one.
Yeah, he has a question which I haven't understood correctly, so I'll read it from here. He's talking about, the question is about parodharma, which is to accept another religion. Yes. So the question is, how best to accommodate some social custom, like Brahmin to Kshatriyas or Shudra to Brahmin, how to address and tell people the real religion, and that which is external to you. And
I'm not sure I understand that question.
Yeah, even I couldn't. So then I asked him to elaborate. So why to accept another religion? Generally, as per Varnashram, you need to excel in the position of your quality, and it can be Vaishya, etc., but we change it.
Yes. No, the point is guna karma, vibhagasha. Krishna says himself in Bhagavad Gita that it's based on gunas and karmas. Your karma should be consistent with your guna. This is the point. I don't know what's happening in this corner here, but I'm not able to concentrate. This Bala Yatra has to settle down a little bit. So just as we were saying, the swadharma should be in sync with the svabhava. So in the same way, the karma should be harmonious with the guna. And jati is there. Generally, jati should match up also, but it doesn't always match up, we see. Throughout Vedic literature, in too many cases, I would even go so far as to guess, without having any statistical analysis before me, that in most cases, the perfection is, that those who have achieved perfection, they're outside of the paradigm. Prahlad Maharaj was technically born a demon. So was Bali Maharaj. And several of them are not even human beings. Hanuman is a monkey. Gajendra is an elephant. So, you know, it's not just on the basis of jati, it's based on guna. So to do someone else's paradharma means to try to attempt the dharma of someone else's qualification. It's a meritocracy. You're trying to meet someone else's skill set when you don't have it. That's the issue. I don't know if that's satisfying or not, but that's what we can say. Okay, anything else?
There was one more question there. One more online question. So there was one more online question. It was asked about an hour ago, and I think you answered it, but I'm still going to read it. Dandavats, then all groups will say that you need to hear from a proper Gita authority. But the conclusions of so many Gita authorities is vast. So
the conclusions what?
Of various Gita authorities is very vast. They have different conclusions.
Okay.
And so who
vast means vibhinna, right? Mm-hmm. Okay.
So who is the proper Gita authority?
Okay. Tarako apratishta. We can't argue, there's no arguing this. It's not subject to argue it. It's not possible to conclude anything through argument. Why is that? Shrutayo vibhinna. Not only the different acharyas are various, but even the shrutis are various. Nasa vrishir yasya matam na bhinnam. A person doesn't even become an authority unless he says something different. Right? Just like when you're in college, they won't give you the PhD unless you say something new, right? So Mahabharata is telling us these things. Tarko apratishta, shrutayo vibhinna, nasa vrishir yasya matam na bhinnam, dharmasya tattvasya nihitam guhayam. The real truth of dharma is hidden within the heart of whom? The Mahajana, the unadulterated pure devotee, the unalloyed pure devotee. Therefore, what is the true path of dharma? Jokushpi Mahajana nekaha. Mahajano yena gata sapantha. Whatever the Mahajana says, you follow that. Now, in bhakti, there are 12 Mahajanas. We know. Who are they? Who knows the verse? There's a verse. Swayambur, Shambur. And Kumara Kapilamanu, Prahlado Janago Bhishmo, Balir Vayasakir Vayam. Yes. So you have Yamaraj, you have Vayasaki, you have all these 12 authorities, you see. So a person has to follow these. And we have 4 sampradayas that are following them as well. We have the Sri Sampradaya, we have Madhva Sampradaya, we have Vallabha Sampradaya, we have Gaudiya Sampradaya, Nimbarka Sampradaya. And all these sampradayas you have to follow. This is the pro. You can follow any of the acharyas, but he has to be bona fide acharya. He has to be saying the same thing that the other acharyas are saying. Is that okay? We have no way to tell whether it's okay because the person's not here.
Haribol Prabhu, here.
Okay, I've just got a question for the organizer of this event because we're supposed to speak on the Chatushloki Bhagavad Gita, and there are 2 days in which to do so. Correct? 4 days. Okay, so 1 verse per day. All right, then we're good. Okay, so that means tomorrow we'll do text 9. Okay, it'll be better tomorrow. All right, anything else?
Here, I have one question. So you were talking about Swadharma. If I'm correct, then Swadharma, if we translate, it's like nature, one's own nature?
No, that is Swabhava.
Oh, okay.
Swadharma will be the corresponding set of obligatory actions that you were to perform that are harmonious with your Swabhava. This is the point.
Okay. So, my question is, we are in this competitive world where the company that we work in, they want to push us to work in the extremes or to work. Say somebody is introvert, they will say you have to be extrovert, and there'll be like this so many things.
I smell the Peter principle coming up here. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm. So my question is how to handle this situation, and what is the solution?
They push you to do something that you're not qualified to do.
Yeah, and if it is against our sabhava also.
Yes.
So then how do we tackle this situation?
You don't tackle it. You act according to your svabhava.
Okay.
We don't have to go to work. I don't work. I used to work. I used to be just like you people. But you don't have to do it. That's too much for most people in this audience. I understand that. So I'm not going to dilate on that too much. But it's a compromised position. This is the point. I mean, household life in general is a compromised position. Why? Because you've got these high ideals, and then you've got practical demands that correspond to your earthy desires. And it's a balancing act. Prabhupada said, sense gratification is like salt. If you eat your meal without salt, it's not really acceptable. And if you eat your meal with way too much salt, it's also not very much acceptable, you see. So in our conditional life, this is what we do. We're compromising. That has to be recognized. That has to be recognized. We have to recognize that we're in a compromised position. Now that's almost an absolute necessity in this world. As long as we're conditioned to any degree by the modes of material nature, we're going to have to compromise like that. But even within that compromised situation that the material world necessitates, there are better ways to live, and there are not so good ways to live. And Srila Prabhupada spent a lot of his time, particularly in his later years, very strongly and clearly and quite urgently actually encouraging us to figure out a better way.
Okay.
Instead of selling out to a paradigm that you know is destroying the planet, as well as your internal Krishna consciousness, just for the sake of temporary things. It would be better to establish a social system in which Krishna, that is much more harmonious with the ideals of Krishna consciousness. This is what Prabhupada wanted to do. In 1977, he was on his way to Gitanagari for the explicit purpose of training up his disciples firsthand. Personally, he was prepared to train them how you can live a simple life in which you don't need to live as a corporate peon or a slave to the same, basically the descendants of the same people that enslaved your ancestors. I hate, there's no polite way to throw a hand grenade, but when I was in India, in Pune, I was talking to some IT professionals who were making similar complaints about, and you think it's hard to work here in Silicon Valley, try going back to India. They really work you to death there. And, you know, I told them the same thing. You don't really have to do this if you don't want to, but you do want to do it, so you get what you pay for. But don't think that you got independence in 1947, because you're not independent even now. The same people, anyway, I already said this. You understand. It's quite weighty, isn't it? So at least recognize that there's a problem, because if you don't recognize that there's a problem, there's no way to solve the problem. If you at least you recognize it, and you know, however conditional you want to be, that's your own choice, but you have to recognize that there's a problem. Because there is a problem. Otherwise, how is it that we get this island of plastic bags twirling around in the Pacific Ocean? What is it, 300 square miles? Where does it come from? It comes from the lifestyle that we lead. Why everybody's got cancer now? Why everybody's cell phone is spying on them? You know, all these, the way that we live is not healthy. When I was in, how old are you? Don't mind if I ask. Anyway, I'm not going to ask. Anyway, when I was younger, I was also working in Seattle, and one of my colleagues came running into the office at the Department of Asian Language and Literature at University of Washington, and she was completely distraught because she said she came walking out of Starbucks, And suddenly she walked out of the door, and there was a big lathi charge of police coming down the street with riot shields, and she was completely, it was just overwhelming. Because there were these World Trade Organization demonstrations this is about 20 years ago, 15, 20 years ago. They were doing that every year, and people didn't like it. So, I saw that, at that time I realized that a lot of the things that the people who are bombing us in the Middle East are saying, I could see there's a lot of parallels with the things that these people who are anti-globalists at that time, they were saying. Anyway, Srila Prabhupada wanted us to live simply and think high, not live high and think simply. So, a simple life is ideal. He used to quote the British poet Cowper's that God created the country, whereas man created the town. And in fact, Krishna tells Uddhava this very same thing in 11th canto. And you know the verse? Anybody? Vanam tu satviko vaso, gramo rajasa uchyate, tamasam dyuta saranam, mannaketam tu nirganam. This is the idea. As long as we're conditional, and therefore conditioned, then we have to try to cultivate things that are in sattva guna. That will elevate us. This is the principle. This is also something Krishna instructs Uddhava in the 11th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. As long as we're conditional, and therefore conditioned, we should carefully try to cultivate things that are sattvic, sattva guna. And how do we do that? We do that by very carefully following all the paradigms that are received in parampara, from Shastra. That will elevate us within the mundane sphere. It won't take us out of the mundane sphere, but within that sphere it will elevate us. This is what Prabhupada was getting at. And as a matter of fact, if Manu Smriti says, Manu, he's one of the Mahajanas, Swayambhuva Manu, he says that if there's any question about what is dharma, what is not dharma, if you're confused about what is your duty, as Arjuna was confused about his duty, dharma samurha cheta, he said. Dharma samurha cheta. Totally bewildered about my duty, Krishna. Manu says if that is the case, then you have one fail-safe recourse, and that is to follow the path that was recognized as dharma by all of your predecessors. If you do that, you will never go wrong. But if you try to adjust things, or if you think that you're beyond things, or if you don't care, or whatever, then you run into problems. Is that okay? Is it more than you asked for?
Yeah, thank you, Prabhu. I was confused between Swadharma and Swabhava.
Yes, they're two different things. One is the subtle form, and the other one is the practical form. This is another way to see it. I mean, actually, there are some scholars who look at Dharma in this way also. They divide Dharma, because think about it. If you read Srila Prabhupada's books, you will see that the word Dharma is, I actually counted them up. The word Dharma has been translated in at least 24 different ways. 24, 24 or more different ways. How do you make sense of this? Somewhere Dharma is translated as law. Somewhere it's translated as social obligation. Somewhere it's translated as intrinsic property, lakshana, sarup. Somewhere, just so many different things. Because it actually does mean all these things if you look in the dictionary. And the confusing thing, particularly for modern minds, and also modern intellects, but mainly modern minds, what's confusing to the modern mind, and the Western mind in particular, is that it means all these things all at one and the same time. Because that's another achintya bheda bhed. So, it's not so easy to deal with. It's a very tough topic. But there are some scholars, as I was saying, they divide this Dharma concept into two different classes, you might say. One is the Normative Dharma, which means practical application. This kind of fits in with Dharma as social obligation definition. And others see it as a naturalistic. The scholar's name is Iravati Karve. And so normative is one division and naturalistic is another division. The naturalistic Dharma would be the more metaphysical descriptions that you get, such as Dharma as the intrinsic property of a thing. What is the intrinsic property of water? Liquidity. What is the intrinsic property of heat and light? Or fire? Heat and light. What is the intrinsic property of sugar? Sweetness. What is the intrinsic property of the jiva? Service. You see? So, like that. That may help us to navigate the ocean of definitions that you find floating in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu also. Okay? It's a big topic. It's the subject matter of a whole seminar, I think. Anybody else have any questions? So 4 days, one verse for each day. I just want to make sure that... Yes.
It's a very common question that's asked, but I just thought I'll get your inputs on this, Prabhu. When Krishna appeared in front of Devaki, in order to prove himself that he's God, he first showed his four-handed form, right? And then they came to know that he's Vishnu, and then he became the two-handed and then normal baby. So some people ask that, don't you think that he's showing his original copy and then becoming the two-handed? So Vishnu should be the original thing. So how do we understand that?
No, the acharyas have described, as you've also described. Vasudeva and Devaki, they're in a unique position. Not unique, but they're in a special position. Kunti Devi is a little bit like them also. They have Vatsalya Rasa for the Lord, but they also have knowledge of the Lord's Aishwarya. And so there's an internal conflict within their hearts. Vasudeva and Devaki, when they were looking at Krishna from the perspective of the devotee towards his worshipable Ishtadeva, then there's no fear, and they understand that he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and we're so fortunate that he's appeared within as our child. But when they're looking at him through the perspective of his parents, which is purely emotional and has no gyan involved, then they're afraid for his welfare, particularly Devaki. And they know that Kamsa is aware that Devaki's son will kill him, and Kamsa has already killed her previous 7 children. So that fear gets the better of her. And it's not a mundane fear. It's not a product of Mahamaya, it's a product of Yogamaya. But they're so overwhelmed by fear because this time he's really here. And they can see that he's definitely Vishnu. Even Vasudeva also was afraid. Vasudeva requested the Lord, please, go back to your normal form. I'm afraid what will happen. That's all. And it's not even that Krishna was demonstrating his Chaturbhuja form in order to convince them that he was God. He was doing so in order to convince us that he was God. Because, every parent thinks their kid is some sort of special incarnation. And, there's so many rascals everywhere who are saying that they're God. I mean, you've got to actually demonstrate something. Just like if you say you love Krishna, you've got to actually do something to demonstrate that love. So similarly, if Krishna is going to claim that he's God, he's going to have to demonstrate that he's God. Not necessarily for his devotees. He wouldn't even have appeared to them if they weren't qualified. But for us, they say that when the mother-in-law teaches the daughter-in-law by teaching the daughter, so Krishna teaches all of us by his dealings with his devotees. So he appeared in that original four-handed form so that we would believe that it was really Vishnu. And Vasudeva Devaki also, they had that knowledge, but their maternal sentiments, their Vatsalya sentiment overcame their knowledge to some degree. Within devotees of their caliber, it's always a conflict between the Aishwarya Gyan and the Madhurya. Aishwarya and Madhurya. Within the Vrajavasis community, we find that conflict is not there. They have no idea that he's God. Even if you tell them that he's God, they won't believe it. Because for them, the intimacy of their rasas, particularly Sakya, Vatsalya, Madhurya rasas, it has completely eclipsed their knowledge. They have no knowledge, no understanding that he's God. They don't even care if he's God or not. All they know is that he's Krishna, that's what counts. This is unalloyed love. Unalloyed love. It's not mixed with any other consideration. There's no hetu. This is the point. Okay? Anything else? Yes.
Hare Krishna. It's a different question, somewhat related to the class, hopefully. So you're talking about different acharyas and then remaining loyal to the acharya whom you have accepted. So the question that I was getting is, initially when we come to Krishna consciousness, we hear from a particular acharya and entire sampradaya, but over the period of time, some people realize that, okay, let me do some research and let me study other acharyas also, because before coming to Krishna consciousness, we were like, in one way, not even interested in spirituality. But by the grace of devotees, we do get interested, and then we want to explore other paths also. Sometimes even Shankara path, to go to an extreme. So is that kind of inquisitivity, is that is that bona fide, or is it like disloyalty, or is it recommended or not? How to find the acharya whom to accept? Thank you.
I think it's all of the above, and that's why we have to have spiritual masters. Because the spiritual master, who is an unalloyed pure devotee, has sufficient empathy to understand which case is appropriate, which case is not appropriate. It depends on the individual. Srila Prabhupada universally discouraged hearing from Shankaracharyas. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself said, Mayavada bhasha shunade hoy sharbanash. So that goes without saying. At the same time, when the Bhaktivedanta Institute in 1977, maybe 76, they were setting up their offices in Mumbai, and Srila Prabhupada told them to establish a library, and they asked him what kind of books to put in the library, and Prabhupada said all the Acharya's works, even Shankaracharya's works, for reference, not for daily study. But if one is a scholar, then there's a need. If one is not a scholar, then I don't see that there's a need. If one has a curiosity, that may be something that can be engaged, but that's the discretion of the spiritual master. This is why the real thing is to accept the spiritual master and follow his instructions very strictly, because he can guide us what to do and what not to do. There are cases in which it's good, there are cases in which case it's bad. The very nature of Krishna consciousness is such that everything is allowed in Krishna consciousness and everything is prohibited in Krishna consciousness. So, it all pivots around the vision and the instruction of the spiritual master. And we accept the spiritual master, so ultimately it's up to us. I hope that's okay. It's a general question, so it's a general answer. All right, anything else? Yes.
So my question is about unalloyed devotion. So sometimes in the world we see people have unalloyed devotion or love for other people in their life. It could be their family or their friend. So I'm curious to understand how this unalloyed devotion, is it materially tinged as opposed to the unalloyed devotion towards Krishna?
If devotion is materially tinged, if devotion is materially tinged, then it's not unalloyed, right? Gold has no stains in it. It's pure gold. There's no impurity. This is the point. In this world, we generally don't see unalloyed devotion. We see things that look like unalloyed devotion to us, but we're not so keen. When a person advances in Krishna consciousness, he becomes exceedingly sensitive to even the slightest contamination and can see things that other people just can't see. It's kind of like when people are new to Krishna consciousness. They say they're a vegetarian, but they don't take time to look and see what are the ingredients of the yogurt that they're buying, and they see that it's got rennet in it. But if you've been practicing Krishna consciousness for some time, you become sensitive to these things. It's like that also with the desires in our hearts. There are so many people who feel that I'm completely in love with Krishna, and they actually think like that. That's called immaturity. Because the very nature of advancing in spiritual life is that we become illumined, we become enlightened to the existence of so many further opportunities for advancement, and so many impurities that are within our hearts. That sounds discouraging, and if we have too much false ego, it actually is discouraging also. But it's just the nature of advancement, that we see that there's more work to be done, and we do it, and then we get elevated in our consciousness. So the principle is that in this world there's really no such thing as unalloyed devotion, but it may convince less experienced people that it's unalloyed. It may look like that, but it's actually not. There's always some hetu. Hetu means cause, reason, or motivation, agenda, we can say in modern terms. Hetu. So this pure devotional service is described in the Bhagavatam. It is a haitaki. There's no hetu. You pull out the hetu, in most people's minds, you pull out the love. Because they misidentified. This is a big topic. It's probably too big because I think we're out of time. Govinda Chandra is sitting here, so. But the idea is that hetus should be removed. When hetus are removed, then the obstructions are also removed. Therefore it becomes apratihata, cannot be stopped, this love. Otherwise, so-called material love, if there's any reason that you love someone, then that is the reason that you're going to hate that person at some point. We don't have time to explain it. But if you think about it carefully enough. Okay?
Thank you very much, Prabhu. And let's welcome His Grace Mukunda Datta Prabhu with a big Hari Bol. Hari Bol! Hari Bol! Hari Bol!
ISV welcomes are inimitable.